I did. We had a great day. You shake hands with me.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Jim Judd, work for policy. Let me see.
Well, I'm happy friendly. Take a seat and then just show the precedent quickly. And
Where am I supposed to sit?
right there.
Make my protocol straight. I'm very weak on protocol.
You're free to stand or sit.
Yeah, we did have a come in last night. And we were at the Wood Hotel.
It's a great place.
It's a marvelous place. Pretty good.
Got a lot of our history.
It really has. I hadn't, in past visits, of course, it was in the. And so this is the first time that I've ever come at the White House from this angle. I've never seen it from coming along the boulevard in the morning like this.
It's nice to be here.
It really is. Well, I tell you, you're looking a hell of a lot better than I did after my first 2 weeks. I can tell you.
I had a great talk with my staff this morning. Occasion about it.
Excuse me, Jeff.
I didn't know the others, a lot of them I don't know, but I've been listening to Peterson for 25 years. I'm a big fan of it. I guess 30 years. And so I was thrilled by it.
Speaking
I got you my own
very well, it really was. Very thoughtful. Very few changes. Like yours or Mark. Mine are too. Of course, he didn't have this.
No. Well, he did. Didn't Roosevelt have any people? This was something. I think they reorganized the market.
Canadians now.
These are your guys?
Amazing that the word of your archives have to be good to preserve animated copy. I really enjoyed that. I've never seen it.
They worked very hard trying to keep all this stuff. I've got a desk upstairs that I've been using from my office upstairs where I work in the evening that President Grant used as his cabinet. It's a big old table, but it just shows you how much government's going at that time. There were 7 cabinet officers.
That was it.
And in this magnificent big table, above the top table, there are 8 drawers. Each of them had all their papers and then little drawer. It's an amazing thing. Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Helen, how are you?
What's your reaction to the unemployment numbers, Mr. President?
Better, but still too high. You know, at the trough of the recession, unemployment was 6.8%, lower than it is now. And now we've had 14 months over 7%, and I hope it's going down. But until we get it way down, there'll still be a lot of unused capacity in the country and a lot of idle people.
We're going to have a statement soon on Bosnia, Mr. President.
Well, Mr. Christopher's working on it, and we're working on it. I spent a good deal of time on it the last 2 weeks, but I don't have anything to say yet. It's a very difficult problem. I'm very concerned about it, and I have spent a good deal of time on it. When I have something to say, I will.
Will that be a topic for this meeting, sir?
We're going to talk about a lot of things. We don't have a type agenda.
This isn't the first time we've met, is it?
Yes, but we've talked before several times.
On the phone, but not.
This is our first meeting.
And you were prominently mentioned in those conversations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Do you like this?
Got one more wave, guys, come on.
Cameras? One. Big cameras, please.
Watch that light.
A little much.
That's amazing.
Prime Minister, will you be seeking some assurances against the winds of protectionism in Congress you mentioned yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think that anytime protectionism takes hold in the United States or Canada or elsewhere, it's bad for prosperity. It cripples growth everywhere. And so the president's a free trader, and so am I. And so I expect that we'll resolve difficulties that we have, not in today's meeting, but over a period of time. And so I look forward to the meeting, and I've been very encouraged by my earlier telephone conversations with the president in regard to trade and other matters.
Monsieur le ministre, vous avez parlé le printemps dernier de changements structuraux quand vous étiez venu voir le président Bush. Avez-vous l'impression que ça a changé notre relation commerciale avec les États-Unis?
Nous avons quand même, compte tenu des dimensions extraordinaires de nos relations commerciales, nous avons quand même peu de problèmes, relativement parlant. Les problèmes sont sérieux, mais peu nombreux, compte tenu de la complexité de nos relations. Alors, j'ai l'intention d'en discuter avec le président quant à une formule, peut-être, qui nous permettrait de régler plus rapidement certains problèmes entre les deux pays.
President Clinton, what do you think about the free trade with Canada? Is it important for USA?
I think it's very important for both of us. And I think it will have real benefits over the long run. As a governor, I was one of those who took responsibility for trying to lobby the original agreement through the Congress here. And I hope we can complete the North American Free Trade Agreement, bringing in Mexico, making some changes that I think will be good for the Mexicans and good for the Canadians and the Americans. But I think that if you just look at the last 50 years, the only way you can have growth within advanced countries over the long run is to have global growth. The only way you can have global growth is to expand trade. This is a difficult time. Europe is in distress economically. Japan is having some difficulties. And of course, there will always be discussions among us about whether the rules of trade are fair or not. But our goal must continue to be the opening of trade and the increase in the volume of trade.
So do you want to reassure Canadians because there's a lot of fear in Canada about U.S. protectionism?
Oh, I think Canada is our most important trading partner. And I hope that we can do some things that will improve the economy of Canada. I'm very concerned that our economy has started to pick up now, and normally when it does, Canada follows behind just by a few months, and I want some of that growth to come back into Canada now. One of the reasons I want to try to generate more jobs here is I think that will create more jobs in Canada. The more people we have with incomes, the more consumers we'll have, the more economic impact we'll be able to have in Canada and bring that unemployment rate down there.
Mr. President,
Well, I think, let me say, this is our first conversation face to face. I don't want to dwell on the problems. The opportunities overwhelm the problems, and I'm sure we'll work through the problems.
Maybe I could just say, Mr. President, in regard to that our total trade, all in, is in Canadian dollars, about $275 billion a year. It dwarfs anything that the United States has anywhere in the world. But more importantly, at the end of the year, when you factor everything in from interest payments to dividend, our trade is in rough balance. I mean, it's extraordinary that the largest trading relationship between two nations in history is in rough balance at the end of the year, which means that with the imperfections that we have, that we've got a pretty good system that is self-governing, and from time to time, the President and the Prime Minister of Canada have to intervene to make sure that this really remarkably productive relationship for both countries is preserved and strengthened. And that's what President Clinton did. He was selling the free trade agreement when he was governor of Arkansas throughout the United States, and So I'm very encouraged by his attitudes and his record in regard to developing world trade.
Afterwards, thank you. You're right.
C'est fini, à la porte, c'est fini,
Thank you very much.
Yeah. How are you? No. Don't start it in my ear. Hear it, right? First hand. Yeah. I landed on. Some of it did get that much.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted that my first meeting as president with a foreign leader is with the Prime Minister of Canada, Brian Mulroney. On the day after I was elected, I spoke of the essential continuity of our country's foreign policy. Our steadfast relationship with Canada is an indispensable element of that continuity. Prime Minister Mulroney and the people of Canada should know that the United States is still their friend and their partner. It is worth noting that the United States and Canada share the world's longest undefended border, and that we haven't had a battle between us since the War of 1812. Now, having said that, Mr. Prime Minister, I will tell you that I look forward to winning back the World Series. Canada has long stood as our partner in promoting democracy and human rights around the world. Today, Canada is demonstrating her international leadership for peace and freedom through her commitment of troops and peacekeeping efforts around the world, in Somalia, in Bosnia, and elsewhere. Canada is our largest trading partner. Both our nations benefit enormously from the immense river of goods and services flowing across our border, with an increase of $30 billion just since the free trade agreement went into effect. It is remarkable how relatively few disputes have attended the vigorous trading between us. Yet it is inevitable that there will be some disagreements, even among close partners, and we agreed today to maintain high-level attention to that trading relationship, to ensure that the problems are addressed before they become crises. The Prime Minister and I discussed the North American Free Trade Agreement. I assured him that my administration intends to move forward with NAFTA while establishing a process to provide adequate protection to workers, to farmers, and to the environment. Canada was our partner in working with Mexico to negotiate NAFTA, and Canada will be our partner as we move forward to put it and its related agreements into effect. We've made a good start here today in setting the stage for working together. We also discussed the GATT agreement, and I reassured the Prime Minister that the United States will do what it can to secure an agreement at GATT that all the world can be proud of and can be a prosperous part of. We reviewed a broad range of global issues, including the developments in Russia and elsewhere in the former Soviet Union, the crisis in the Balkans, the situation in Somalia, and Haiti. We also discussed our participation in the Group of Seven and what the United States and Canada might hope to achieve this year, and especially this summer when the G7 meets in Tokyo, to help move the global economy out of recession and into a strong recovery. This was a very good beginning. I want to thank Prime Minister Mulroney for coming down from Canada and tell him that he'll always be welcome here, and I look forward to visiting you on your home turf soon.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I'll simply say that, as the President indicated, we had a very full review of quite a large number of items in the few hours we spent together, and a very productive working lunch. I thought it was a very good meeting and a very good beginning of the relationship of Canada with the new administration. The President has indicated the complex issues that we've touched on, tried to deal with, principally, of course, and I think you'll understand, the relationship between Canada and the United States itself. The relationship is by far the most important one the United States has in the world. This is the biggest trading relationship ever between two nations. And at the end of the year, its important thing is it tends to be in rough balance, which indicates that you can have free trade and prosper. And so we're very concerned about the GATT, and we're very concerned about trading currents generally, and very reassured by the President's strong commitments and strong positions in respect of the manner in which you bring back and re-energize prosperity around the world. And so we covered our bilateral arrangements, and we covered a lot of the hot spots around the world, and I'm sure that the President and I would be happy to take a few questions. Je dirais tout simplement qu'on a fait un tour d'horizon des plus complets. Des problèmes bilatéraux entre le Canada et les États-Unis et des possibilités extraordinaires de collaboration. Les relations personnelles ont été excellentes et le dialogue a été très fécond. Alors, ça me ferait plaisir d'essayer avec le Président de répondre à vos questions. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
What do you think of the changes the President wants to make in the NAFTA agreement?
Well, Helen, the changes that the President doesn't, he should indicate it, he will himself, I'm sure, but the President has indicated many times that he is going to sign the NAFTA agreement as it is, but that he proposes to bring in supplemental agreements with Mexico, particularly in regard to some of the points that he has mentioned, that do not impact on the NAFTA agreement as concluded. That may change. If it does, I'm sure we'll hear from the President. But our information is that, by and large, that the NAFTA agreement with those supplemental accords is something that he could promote and defend very vigorously. I think, Mr. President, that's the position.
That's right. And I might add that the Prime Minister's administration in Canada has had a strong record on the environment, something that we want to try to beef up in a supplemental agreement. And that Canada would be, I think, more or less in line with the United States in terms of its impact on any supplemental labor accord we might reach. So we certainly intend to work with them. After all, this is a three-way agreement, not a two-way agreement. But I still believe, as I said many weeks ago, that we can negotiate these agreements without reopening the NAFTA itself.
What action will you be taking on GATT specifically?
The UN plan, and how long do you think that negotiations should be relied on before stronger action is taken?
Perhaps the best way to answer your question would be to let the Prime Minister communicate his views, which he communicated to me, and then let me tell you what my response is. Shall we do that?
In regard to the Bosnian situation, we think that, Susan, that the elements of an agreement, there's been a lot of constructive work done, but that there are inadequacies in it that can be corrected at the Security Council by the involvement, a greater degree of involvement by the United States in terms of the accord itself, and also the involvement of President Yeltsin. We believe that the elements of an agreement impacted by the concern of the United States and Canada in the area of human rights, in the area of war crimes, for example, these amendments can be of significant substance without altering a lot of the hard and constructive work that has taken place so far by Cy Vance and David Owen. But it would be important that in this process at the Security Council there be greater involvement by Russia and by President Yeltsin. And I took the liberty of making some recommendations along those lines to the President, and he'll reflect upon them and probably have something to say.
Let me answer now to just reaffirm what our present posture is. We have given the Bosnian situation urgent consideration. We have reviewed a wide range of options. We certainly will take into account what the Prime Minister has said. Our reluctance on the Vance-Owen proposals, while I applaud the effort, both personally and as President, is that the United States at the present time is reluctant to impose an agreement on the parties to which they do not agree, especially when the Bosnian Muslims might be left at a severe disadvantage if the agreement is not undertaken in good faith by the other parties and cannot be enforced externally. So we are looking at that. I think one of the things the Prime Minister said is absolutely right. If there is to be a diplomatic political solution to this over the long run, we very much need President Yeltsin involved in the support of Russia. He reaffirmed to me just a few days ago in our telephone conversation his general support for the policy that we have outlined. But I'm sure you can understand why, with a problem this difficult, we would like a few days longer just to seriously review this, to come up with what our policy is going to be. Then we'll announce it as clearly and forcefully and follow it as strongly as we possibly can.
Il est temps d'augmenter la pression sur Haïti. Est-ce qu'il faut renforcer la pression face à Haïti?
Pardon?
Est-ce qu'il est temps de proposer une action plus musclée pour régler le problème en Haïti?
Le secrétaire d'État, M. Christopher, vient tout juste de rencontrer le père Aristide. Il y a ce matin même, les États-Unis et le Canada sont des grands défenseurs du père Aristide. Et nous tenons à ce qu'il soit réintégré dans ses fonctions à Haïti. Personnellement, je pense qu'en temps opportun, et le temps presse, ça va prendre des gestes plus musclés, que j'ai déjà discuté à Harvard, à l'Université de Harvard au mois de décembre. Et j'en ai parlé au président, et j'en ai parlé au secrétaire d'État ce midi, et on verra l'évolution de cette pensée. Mais le Canada croit que nous avons une priorité en ce qui concerne Haïti, et nous n'avons pas le droit de laisser en place un régime qui étouffe la démocratie et les droits individuels et les libertés personnelles en Haïti.
Yes. Well, as the Prime Minister has said, as our Secretary of State met today with President Aristide and discussed a wide range of issues with him, as well as what our efforts have been, the progress and the lack of progress of Mr. Caputo's efforts. We talked about where we're going with this relationship in the future. Let me say that I am committed to restoring democracy to Haiti. I am doing my best to work through the UN and the OAS with Mr. Caputo. I am frankly disappointed that the Prime Minister in Haiti has apparently backed off a little bit of his original willingness to let us send in some third-party observers, not just to protect the petitions for refugee status, but also to try to stabilize conditions leading toward a restoration of democracy there. And we're going to talk to Mr. Caputo, see where he thinks things are, and then reassess our position. But I share the Prime Minister's determination. The United States and Canada should be and are one in our commitment to restoring democracy to Haiti. And we will continue to push ahead, either on the course we're now on, or if that fails, on a more vigorous course toward that end.
What did you tell the
Prime Minister
president on the
Mulroney, last year you-
deportees?
I'm sorry,
What did you tell the president on the deportees in Israel?
Well, we touched peripherally on the Middle East because the Secretary of State is going to, I gather, to the Middle East at an early moment. The position of Canada, my own view is that we tend not to try and give Israel lessons in regard to the determinations it has to make about its own national security. Israel's entitled to make some important value judgments about itself. That being said, I congratulated the President and the Secretary of State for their leadership in bringing about the first step of the return of the 100 deportees, which I think was an excellent example of diplomacy and international leadership by the President. It's the first step, it's not the whole answer. And it's a complicated matter which I think will be resolved, where the resolution of which will be clearer after Secretary of State Christopher has had an opportunity to visit the region. But I think that we're supportive of the UN resolutions, but I'm always very concerned when people start to lecture Israel on the manner in which it has to look after its own internal security, because for very important historical reasons, Israel, of course, is better qualified than most to make determinations about its own well-being.
Mr. President, on Bosnia, do you expect that there would be an American diplomatic initiative to replace what you see as the flaws in the Vance-Owen initiative?
I can't say that at this time. As I say, I applaud the efforts that have been made by Lord Owen and by Secretary Vance. I think that they have done the very best they could, and I don't criticize the details so much as it's not a criticism so much as a reluctance on the part of the United States to impose on parties an agreement which they do not freely accept themselves, particularly one that might work to the immediate and to the long-term further disadvantage of the Bosnian Muslims. But I would not rule out any option at this time. We have a wide range of options under consideration. We are working very hard on this. We will settle on a course and then do our best to consult with our allies and win broad support for it. You heard the Prime Minister say that over the long run, we need President Yeltsin's involvement in this, and I agree. You heard me say that we hardly ever do anything in foreign policy that we don't have Canada's support in, and we'll need that. So we've got a lot of work to do on this. We've been working very hard, and we'll try to bring it to a quick closure.
Agreement, though, in that
The
Prime
GATT
Minister
talks
seems to think that
specifically,
could be
did you
built
come up with
upon
some
amendment.
I hope we can revive them. You know, our biggest problem in this country is the expiration of fast-track authority, but we have begun a lot of talks in earnest within the administration about that. I've done my best to send a signal to our trading partners and to the parties to GATT that we very much want a successful agreement, and I'll have more to say about that in the days ahead. Thank you.
Une dernière question, Michel.
Monsieur le Premier ministre, est-ce que vous croyez que la mission de M. Caputo en Haïti est un échec et est-ce qu'il faut passer maintenant à un blocus naval comme vous l'aviez suggéré et qu'en pense le Président quand vous lui en avez parlé?
Non, ce n'est pas un échec, mais ça indique la complexité extraordinaire du problème. Le secrétaire d'État, M. Christopher, a rencontré le père Aristide plus tôt aujourd'hui et le Président et moi avons discuté d'un programme peut-être plus musclé si il y a défaut de règlement en Haïti. Nous tenons absolument à la réintégration du père Aristide à la présidence d'Haïti. Et c'est chez nous, ça, c'est dans notre cour. Et ce serait important que la direction de l'État haïtien réalise le sérieux de la prise de position du président des États-Unis et des autres dirigeants de l'Organisation des États américains. Alors, je demeure confiant, Michel, que nous allons régler le problème à la satisfaction de ceux qui croient dans la démocratie.
Let me answer that also. I take it by what I believe was your French and what then was a good translation I got, that you mean by complexity of the situation in Haiti, the fact that Father Aristide was plainly elected by an overwhelming majority and is plainly still has the support of an overwhelming majority of the people, but while in the brief period when he was in authority, made some statements which caused people in the military and others to have fear for their security, their personal security, in ways that are inconsistent with running a democracy, which has to recognize human rights. Does that present the complexity? Yes, that is the nub of the issue. We have to be able to restore democracy in a way that convinces everybody that their human rights will be respected and, for an interim period, protected. And obviously that's what the Caputo mission is designed to do. But the complexity of the issue cannot deter us from the fundamental mission, which is to restore a democratically elected government that will not abuse the human rights of ordinary Haitians. And I agree with the Prime Minister. We certainly ought to be able to do that here in our backyard, and we're going to work hard on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Shake it one more time.